Я начал учиться русский язык 9 месяцев назад. В русский не очень. Это очень тяжелый язык. Hopefully, so I will be here for 2 years. Через 2 года я буду сказать хорошо. Я работал, I worked in politics in America, in Arizona. Я работал для congressman. 5 год я хотел что-то новое. I wanted to travel, I wanted to serve people in a better way. And so I was able to apply to become a volunteer, and I chose to come to Moldova. Many volunteers, they are sent wherever they're needed most. They don't always choose, but I chose to come to Moldova because for me it's a very interesting place. But yes, so I come from a political background, but obviously now I'm doing humanitarian work. Я был здесь в Молдове год, точно год. In general, the biggest difficulty is the language barrier. Много людей говорят по-английски, но не все, конечно. So the language barrier can be tricky. Сейчас я не говорю по-молдавски, поэтому, когда я в деревне, я не могу сказать. Мой шеф знает меня хорошо сейчас. У нас есть общение без perfect русский on my part и perfect английский on his part. So we can communicate very well because we know each other very well. So, but yes, that remains a barrier. Я говорю чуть-чуть по-испански, потому что мой papa мексиканец. I learned a little bit of Moldovan in the beginning, but then stopped. So, but even now, my Russian is not very advanced, and so it's when I go to the market or when I'm, shopping or speaking with people, it's still hard for me to communicate very effectively. So, hopefully, over time, as my language improves, I'll be able to communicate better. But I will say my nonverbal communication skills have improved, and usually I can find some form of understanding. Yeah. Когда я был в Америке, я был вегетарианец. Это transition был чуть-чуть difficult, потому что молдавские люди много еда здесь есть мясо. И интересно мясо. Новое мясо для меня. Prepelica и caviar. I've had to adjust my diet. Moldovans are very hospitable, and they will invite you for dinner. And of course, it's quite rude to refuse to eat certain dishes. So that's been a bit of a challenge, the food. I've still not been able to eat ретечури. Is that correct? Ретечур. Это холодная курица с jelly. I've not tried that yet, but yes, so I've been able to try a lot of new foods, but that's been a challenge also. However, I eat very healthy here. Moldova есть очень здоровый. Да. I eat a lot of local food, salads, and so that's been a positive. Намного, не все, мне нравится. Курица, много рыбу. There's very many good fish dishes that I enjoy, yeah. Mm-hmm. I've always been interested in the region, Eastern Europe. Surprisingly, I learned about Moldova from a television show in America, a reality show. 2 of the characters on the show were from Moldova. The show followed them back to their home country. So honestly, that's where I learned about Moldova first. Когда я знал, я буду здесь, я сделал много research about the country and was able to learn more. Много американцы людей не знают про Молдову. Да. I really enjoyed going to the Prut River. Я был на Пруте для поход. Это был очень-очень красиво. Один деревня, там очень-очень красиво, и они есть, я не знаю, как сказать, but caves, и landscape там очень-очень красиво. So, это был...
I was there.
Да? Okay. That's been my favorite place so far. Люди здесь очень hospitable, и когда люди hear my accent, они очень любопытны, и they come up to me and ask me questions. Откуда вы? So I meet people every day like that. На автобусе. So Moldovans are very open-hearted and curious to meet foreigners. So for that reason, I've met many new friends. It's been easy. Это поход на прутье. I didn't know any of those. It was about 20 of us that went from all over the country. Ukrainci люди, Moldavski люди, and I made friends with almost all of them. It was a 3-day trip, so we got to know each other pretty well. And I'm still friends with several of them. They live in my city. So, but I've met friends on the bus, like I said. I think this is maybe something more, perhaps this is part of my American culture, but I don't hesitate to start conversations with strangers at the supermarket or on the bus. And so I think I'm able to meet people easier. My observation is that perhaps that's not a normal cultural trait, but I haven't had any difficulty meeting people. And like I said, Moldovans are curious to get to know people from another culture, and that's been lovely. America очень большая страна. Да. So я жил в California и Arizona. I would say the traditions that I'm accustomed to relate to, they say in America, Chicano culture. So because I'm biracial, I'm a quarter Mexican, a lot of the traditions I'm accustomed to relate to Mexican-American culture, and living in Arizona and California, намного людей говорят по-испански. Били люди тоже. So traditions, there's like Mexican holidays we celebrate in that region, like Cinco de Mayo or Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. Halloween is probably the most popular holiday in America, which is interesting because it's non-religious. But I think Halloween, everyone dresses up, everyone goes trick-or-treating. I'm sure you've heard of that. That's something that is experienced across the board, across the country. And traditions like that unite everyone. But of course, in America, there are very different regions that have their own traditions. So for example, I've never been to the South, and they have their own traditions. Я люблю, I forgot what it's called, but it's второй Easter, second Easter. So that second Easter, though, I love that people go to the cemetery and drink wine and eat food and with their relatives. Я думаю, это очень красиво. Мы не сделали это в Америке. A cemetery is just a place where maybe you visit and pay your respects. But it's very sweet, the intimate connection people have with their ancestors in the cemeteries. There's, маленькие столи and chairs, you drink wine. Я думаю, это очень мило. Exactly. So я люблю это. Other traditions, okay, я люблю tradition, the winemaking tradition here. Yes, домашнее вино. A very interesting process, and it's very sweet when people, they always want you to try their home wine. That's something that I think that would be something I could do in America. I was thinking, when I retire, I want to have a small vineyard maybe, and a cellar where I can make wine myself too. So that's something that maybe in the future I'll take home with me. Я думаю, это будет очень popular в Америке. Я думаю, about 14 тысяч лей. Моя аренда 4500 лей. Yes, I did. So I moved recently to a new apartment, and it was not furnished. So I had to buy new furniture and a new bed and all of this stuff. So it cost me a little bit of money to move in. I actually had to buy a fridge too. Not much. Let me think for a second. Lack of racial diversity is something very new for me. In America, we have people from all over the world that live there. So especially coming from a place like Arizona or California, you see every race of people every day, especially in those areas, Latin American culture. So that's been an interesting thing to witness, to live in a place that's very homogenous in terms of the racial makeup of the country. You have the Roma community, but aside from that, it's Romanian and Slavic white people that are here. Yes, and that's not a bad thing. It's just something new for me. Yeah. So I was lucky because I arrived here with other Americans. So I kind of had a community in place already, but so I didn't feel isolated. Я живу один сейчас, без американцев людей. I'm able to meet people very easily, like with my work and my boss and everything. I've made new friends. It's been fairly easy. I've never really felt out of place. I think. I'm sure there are certain things that stick out for me as being a foreigner. In fact, sometimes my coworkers or my colleagues will laugh at the things I do as something foreign to them, but I've never felt out of place. I think the way I communicate, people have kind of laughed at me, especially actually my American friends, that I will try to speak entirely in Russian and then just substitute English words in and hope that they will understand. Of course, many people don't, but oftentimes it does work, but people kind of laugh about that. I'm trying to think of other funny moments. Nothing else really comes to mind. I will say the drinking culture is very different here. So Moldovan people are proud of their tradition of winemaking, and drinking is just part of the culture here in a way that's different from America. So there's been kind of, for example, when you go to dinner parties, or especially like in a village home, you're expected to drink. You try to say no, and basically they will not accept no as an answer. So you end up, usually we were told there's a 3-question rule. If you really want to say no to drinking, you have to let them try to ask 3 times. By the end, you're okay. Yeah, I have interesting moments all the time, and honestly, it's a lovely country. I'm very happy to live here. The people are wonderful. Well, most of the ones I've met. It has a beautiful countryside, so I'm very pleased to live here, and I consider it a privilege. Different mentality. Being in a post-Soviet country, I think there is a bit of a difference in mentality, and that's hard to describe exactly. But I've heard other Moldovans describe that kind of mentality to me. In America, we come from a hyper-capitalistic, hyper-work-oriented, hyper-entrepreneurial culture. And I think that's kind of stands in contrast to what I've observed here. For example, we were at an event the other day that was catered by a local woman. She made food and cupcakes and beautiful, and she was just someone from the village, and that's what she does. Maybe she gives them to her friends. But I thought, okay, my American mind thought, you can make this into a business. Why not? So maybe that's kind of the mentality. Maybe that a different approach. I don't know. That was my first thought, and something I think it could be successful if she opened a business in town. But maybe there's a difference in thinking for some reason. I think I was able to adapt fairly easily, like I said, because I tried to be open, and I did that from the very start. So I don't know if I discovered something new about myself. It was heartening to know that I can be dropped into an entirely new culture and establish networks, establish friendships rather easily. So that was something that was, frankly, that I'm proud to have achieved already. People hesitate to move abroad because it seems like a very long process, very difficult. I think people have a mental block about that. But just being proactive and making a move, if you would like to, that would be my recommendation for people who want to live abroad. Just make the move, like I did. And you adjust to life once you arrive. It would depend on where you're moving abroad. But I think in general, if you are open, and if you're open-hearted and open-minded, you will be able to adapt wherever you are. And that's something that I've tried to do while being here, is I try to never say no to an invitation. So if someone invites me over for dinner and I don't know them very well, I always say yes, because that's how you meet new people and you can become more integrated into the community. So that's been my approach. It's not difficult to integrate into a new place if you make the effort and come from a place of thank you very much. Извините, я знаю мой русский не очень хорошо. So может быть через год я могу делать again.
Главное, что вы нас понимаете.